Well, look, without further ado, I suppose we'll get underway. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us today to hear our special guest speaker, Abbe Hyde. She's the Chief Technical Officer at Winely, and she's here to talk to us today about their cutting-edge wine fermentation monitoring technology and the innovations they've made to help winemakers keep track of fermentations. Abbe, from what I understand, your system monitors volatiles and other compounds during fermentation, and then provides real-time information to winemakers about what's going on. Is that roughly right?
Yeah, that is roughly correct. Yeah. Cool. And I'll dive into it in a bit more details as well.
I'm fascinated and I'm looking forward to hearing more. So without further delay, please take it away, Abbe.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to sort of speak to the Central Otago Association of Winegrowers. Probably not everyone knows this, but Winely is based in Dunedin in New Zealand, and we started our first sort of work in this space down with Central Otago winemakers. So started off in VinPro, and we've always worked quite closely with them on the new versions of our technology and things like that. So it's great to have the opportunity to kind of talk to you guys about what we've been up to and what we do, and just get back to our roots a little bit. It's good fun. So I'll do a wee share screen here. We've got a bit of a demo just to sort of walk you through what we do, and I think that we're going to have some Q&A at the end as well. So if any questions do come to mind, more than happy to address them. So yeah, I guess just starting off. So we're Winely. And we do real-time fermentation analysis. So we build technology for the primary fermentation of when the wine's going through that initial ferment. So we've been around for about 4 years now, and really the inspiration for Winely came directly from talking to the industry about their current sampling practices. So this diagram here, a nice 6-phase simple looking diagram, was the result of talking to hundreds of different wineries about their current sampling practices. And what we've sort of heard time and time again is that the current way that sampling runs are done is, quite manual, twice a day, sometimes more during vintage. And it can result in, delayed information, inaccurate samples, and a bit of a health and safety concern, particularly in those earthquake regions like Marlborough, where they're really pushing to get people off the top of tanks and away from catwalks. So, very much this is how we heard that sampling was being carried out: going to the tank, taking a sample, logging the data, either in VinTrace or on a piece of paper or into Google spreadsheets or Excel. And then only really at that point could you analyze the data and make a decision and carry out those tasks. So that was really the problem that we wanted to help the industry with. And the reason why we really wanted to help the industry with this problem is, during vintage, things go very fast. You can be chewing through ferments, every 6 days or so. So the idea of, having this delay in information and not really knowing what's going on in real time seemed like it was causing a bit of sleepless nights for people, essentially. So we wanted to build something to help. So with Winely's technology, your workflow is real-time sampling and real-time decisions. So really being able to be hugely proactive about managing your ferments rather than having to be reactive. We do this through hardware and software for real-time fermentation analysis. So the hardware is a sensor system. You put one in every tank. It's a simple clip in place. It's all beautiful, stainless, food grade, easy to clean, super easy to put in your tank and take care of. It's completely wireless, so you just mount it at the top of the tank and it's ready to go. This is how it looks when it's in the tank. So this piece here is made to be fully submerged, so you can always get it through the cap. It's weighted, it gets into the juice. So it's made to sink through the caps in the red wine. It handles the majority of cap management activities without interruption. Less common in Central Otago, but pulse air or heavily pumping through the tank can interrupt it temporarily while that's going on, but it handles pump overs and plunge downs and things like that really easily. And it measures the things that you would be going to your tank every single day or twice a day to collect samples on. So we really focus on getting you what you need in real time. So currently, I'm sure that this is coming to your mind already, but it's things like Brix, temperature, pH, volume in the tank. So you get a real-time feed of all of those different data points. So one every 15 minutes. This is what it looks like when it's coming in. But the majority of our customers are really focusing on the charts that we provide. So we offer lots of different ways to view the data, and the majority of our customers are really looking at, rate of change, like what was it doing yesterday, what is it doing today, how is my ferment progressing overall, and all of the different things that you can tell when you look at that. You can zoom, right in onto a single ferment and see exactly what's happened each and every hour. You can pull that across to look at the whole ferment. You can segment in onto one different spot. So you can really, really keep a good close eye on it. You can add different things that you're doing onto the chart. So if you do, a cap management activity, or if you add something, you can timestamp that. It's associated with the chart. So you can get, a fermentation journey of everything that's happened essentially, and you can keep that as a historical record. So you can look at what's happened with the ferment, what did you do, how did the ferment respond to that treatment, all of those kinds of things. One of the things that makes Winely a little bit different from just your generic kind of sensor and data system is that we're really, really focused on giving you more out of the data that you're receiving. So we focus on, in our labs up in Dunedin, we've got ferments going all the time. We're constantly pulling data, and we're finding different relationships between things that are happening in ferments. One of the things that we're releasing this vintage is predictive analysis. So this looks at, where is your ferment at right now, and, where might it be going in the future? So this can really help you guys out with thinking about, is my ferment going to be, a sluggish ferment? If so, how can I, get in nice and early and prevent that from happening? Is it going too fast? If so, how can I get in early and, maybe do something simple like cooling the tank a little bit, or moving it into an area where it's cooler if you've got a mobile fermenter. So different things like that to just help you again be proactive about managing your ferments rather than having to be reactive and add nutrients after the fact or do really quick temperature controls and things like that. So just making sure you can keep it managed really, really well throughout the ferment. So this is again feeding into that analysis side of things and giving you more from your data. So this is a home page, if you will, for all of your ferments. So you've got one card here for each tank. You can do a really quick flip overview on it and see, where your Brix was yesterday, where it is today. Again, focusing on that rate of change. And this here is sort of showing you how far through the ferment is, based on those predictions, based on the real-time data coming in. So always updating in real time when it might be expected to be finished. So that can help you out if you're managing fruit intake and you're wondering what tanks it should go in, all of those types of things. You can have a quick look at Winely's dashboard and see what tanks might be coming available. It can also help with organising labour, all of those kind of things as well. And then just any sort of warnings or alerts that you might want to pay attention to. So, is something going too hot or hotter than what you wanted it to? Is Brix dropping slower than you'd like? It'll give you an alert based on the preferences that you give it. And it will tell you, are you heading for a sluggish ferment? Should you do something about it? So a lot of our customers are using this to kind of prioritize which tanks they're visiting first when they come into the winery. So rather than just doing the normal sampling lap around the tank, they can actually plan out their workflow based on what tanks might need the most attention. So that's, I guess, an overview of Winely, and I don't want to, talk for too long about it. I think we've got some Q&A coming up as well. So I just thought I would stop the share there and just open the floor a bit for Q&A. But do let me know if you want any sort of more information on this as well. Like, more than happy to send through the presentation to anyone who's interested, want to share it with your teams, all of that kind of thing. More than happy to do that as well. So open the floor for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Abbe. Sorry, I was just getting my video back going there again.
That's all right.
I had a question, just one thing that came to me when you were talking about sort of setting it up and setting up all of the preferences for alerts and that sort of thing. Roughly how long would it take to set up the Winely system?
Yeah, awesome question. So, I mean, it's designed to be, easy and ready to go. So with the hardware, like, we come and install it, takes about 15 minutes per tank, we get it all in for you, and then your dashboard comes preloaded with the tanks, and then it's just a matter of, it's got some default varietals in there as well, and some default preferences, so it should be super easy to just hit play on that data and get things going, and then you can kind of look at setting up, more sophisticated things based on your needs. So you can set up different varietals, and then they're all preloaded in there. You can set up the ferments and just hit go. Yeah. Shouldn't be too cumbersome. Yep. As much or as little as you want is how we like to say.
Right. And you don't need too much technical expertise to use it.
No, you shouldn't need any. That's one of the things we worked really hard on with Winely's dashboard, is trying to make it a nice user-friendly experience on the software side of things. So should be nice and simple. And we have about 3 people on our customer success team, which are always more than happy to take a phone call or email and help you out as well. So yeah.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions at this stage?
Yeah, Jake, it's Matt Evans with Maury Point. I definitely would love to chime in with some questions.
Hi, please, Matt, take it away.
Yeah, so in full disclosure, I should admit that I have had conversations with Abbe over this past couple of years. I've been excited by what they're doing, but I still still have questions, because we don't have any installed yet at Maury Point, and I would love to actually get some Winely installed. But that kind of, just thinking about, Maury Point, as well, anyone on this call would know, we're quite small, even amongst the Central Otago size, Central Otago cohort. And I think it's worth asking about the type of wineries, the size of wineries that would most benefit from your technology. Because, my assumption coming into it, and when we first talked, was that it would only be large tank farms, big operations. But is that necessarily the case?
So I guess a couple of points on that. So the first thing is, we do work with a lot of really large wineries, but in terms of our, ethos, or what we've always tried to do, is make it available no matter what size your facility is. So for example, we do, things like we price per tank rather than having like a big infrastructure investment that's needed. So no matter what size your facility is, you're still just paying the same amount per tank as the big guys. So that's one thing which we really try and do. But the other thing is, in terms of, the actual work associated with, the work or the benefits that Winely provides, it really is applicable no matter what size your winery is. Like, if you're thinking about that activity of going to the tank, taking the sample, not quite being sure what's going on, that's a problem that we've seen no matter what size the winery is. You still are having to, go to that tank, no matter how many tanks it is, you need to go there. And then the other thing we see is a lot of people will calculate, things based on labor savings, for example. So they'll go, oh, well, like, I've only got 5 tanks. It only takes me, I just go out and do it myself. But there are other benefits to having real-time data. Like, we've seen, just better management of ferments. So just the winemaker who's probably in those smaller facilities having to do it all themselves. We've seen them just being able to sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that their ferments are still being watched by the winery system, and they'll get an alert if something's going wrong. And we've also seen that it results in so better management of the ferments, some energy savings can be gained, some intervention, so not having to add as much nutrients. So it's more than just the labor savings. There's a lot of benefits to real-time data that we've seen.
That's great. With that, is there again, thinking from a Central Otago perspective on it, with the smaller, more premium focus, do you see that what are other aspects of the real-time data that you think can fit in and really benefit in our world?
Yeah, 100%. So if you're thinking about that premium winery end, even if you're making less wine, it's much higher value, right? So you want to be looking after it and making sure that it's going really well. We see a lot of interest from organic wineries and biodynamic wineries, the ones that don't necessarily have as much interventions up their sleeve if something does go off track. So they can't just, add a bit of this and that and get it back on track. They're pretty strict with what they want to do, and they really are wanting to take that more natural winemaking approach. So real-time data is a real aid in that premium natural winemaking space. If you can see what's going on in real time, again, you can be proactive, you can do, a simple change, which isn't this heavy intervention, which is going to mess with your organic labels and things like that. It can just be a simple change and get it back on track. Yeah.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, just to be able to have kind of that constant monitoring, you're able to react more quickly, and yeah, not have to intervene as aggressively if you catch it early. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in Australia, like, they've got DAP shortages at the moment, so everyone's going, oh my gosh, like traditionally, they've just been adding DAP as a matter of course, and now they're having to kind of think about which tanks actually need this because we don't have enough. So just little things like that as well.
Well, I don't want to monopolize this too much, but one last question. What are future capabilities that you're looking at and working on in terms of things that you might add to the sensors, or even the kind of the intelligence behind the software that helps us understand what's going on?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Matt. And I guess one of the points to bring up is that we're really building this for the wine industry. So if there is something that, you think of where you're like, hey, we would love to see something that we could get measuring this, we would love to hear about it. So at the moment, we're really focused on the things that you're measuring every single day. So Brix, temperatures, pH, volume. Trying to remove as much of that labor element of having to walk around the tanks as possible. But we've, preliminarily got some really great results with like free and bound SO2. We're looking into oxygen measurement. It's a really popular one. I think it's mainly driven by the research happening at UC Davis. So oxygen, all the buzz about oxygen at the moment, and it's something that we're definitely looking into. So yeah, one thing that we always like to do is just make sure that, if there is something which we could be measuring, which would give you guys a lot of benefits, that we know about it. So yeah, open to any feedback on that, but we're working on quite a lot of exciting stuff in the lab. So yeah, it's cool.
Very cool. I guess I should throw out there one last little thing is what it was, because I know I'm talking with you about this. What are next steps for anyone who wants to try out the technology this vintage?
Yeah, awesome question. And Matt, like, we're definitely going to get you some technology. So it's a good question. So yeah, if you are interested, so we're really keen to work with the Central Otago wineries this year. We're based in Dunedin, and so it's a lovely opportunity for our team to get down there and install technology. So to kind of give you guys like a bit of a incentive and to make it a little bit more applicable for some of the smaller wineries in the region, we've dropped our minimum order number for the region. So if you do want to try this technology out, you can take as little as, you know, 1 tank. You don't have to do like a massive commitment. We're definitely keen to come and install in your winery. So it's $400 per tank. So it should be, fingers crossed, achievable for most wineries on a budget even. But yeah, just come have a chat to us and we'll sort you out, because our team's super keen to get down to Central Otago and do some installs.
Excellent. We'd be super keen to host you here, Abbe, you and the team. It'd be nice to see your equipment getting into a few more tanks and getting that data. I had just one final follow-up question, which is more around the machine learning AI that you've got in the back end. Do you have a feedback loop of information about sort of how good those ferments turned out? Feeding into the AI to sort of say, well, this is the type of ferment that makes a great wine.
Well, you can't judge us based on what we're doing in the winery labs, because we are, you know, on a budget for our ferments. So we don't even always use very good quality grapes, but we do work with the Research Institute here in Australia at the Wake campus with AWRI. So we've had technology in their ferments. They run them year round, so we're able to collect data through that as well. One thing, I guess, which I think is it's an interesting misperception about Winely. A lot of, you know, winemakers and ops managers are kind of going like, oh, I see, like you want to tell us what ferment curve makes a better wine, but it's not really about that. And I think most winemakers would agree that, you know, everything does depend on that grape that's coming in the first place. And so it's more about, we call it like optimizing the grapes that come in, rather than it being about consistency and making all of these ferment graphs look the same. That's not
fair
aim.
enough.
Ops managers don't necessarily like that, but I think the winemaker kind of gets it. So yeah.
Oh, very good. Okay, and we've got a question here from Carl Coombs, so I'll pass over to him.
Yeah.
Hi, Abbe. Hi, everyone. I just wanted, could you talk a little bit about how the hardware actually works and how accurate it is? And also you talked a little bit about cost just before at 400 a tank, but if it was set up in a, you know, say 150 ton winery or thereabouts, could you give us a better idea of how much it would cost?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of how it works and the accuracy of it, so we base, so when we're building the hardware and we're doing our side-by-side testing, we use tools that you use in the winery. So we make sure that we calibrate it to be a measurement that you would expect to see. So for example, our bricks is calibrated to give you the data points that you'd expect to see if you're using an Anton DMA. So the numbers, you know, you're not expected to have like a steep learning curve about what does a Winely bricks mean or anything like that. It should be accurate to the data that you're used to seeing. In terms of cost across a winery, so we do just do it at $400 per tank, because the association or the benefit is really with not having to visit that tank as often anymore. So that applies, you know, no matter what size it is. And plus, like with some of those smaller tanks, you know, the quality of the wine is that much higher and the need to look after it is that much more important. So yeah, it would just be the $400 per tank on that one. But what we really try and do, you know, if we come and we put like, you know, 1 or 5 units in your winery, what we're really looking to do over your first experience with Winely is help you build a business case to actually go, hey, like if I put this across my facility, there's benefits here and there's ROI on what I'm doing. So our customer success team will, you know, be monitoring the value that it's adding and taking feedback from you about what you think about it, and really helping you build out, you know, that business case. If you need to take it to someone, or if you're the owner, you need to know for yourself, this is a good place to put the money. That's one of the things that we work with you in that first vintage.
Cool. And how does it actually detect, like how does the hardware actually work? How does the detection work?
Yeah, so there's a series of sensors inside that stainless tube. So there's different sensors measuring different things. They do direct measurements and indirect measurements. And then there's a series of algorithms through the software which converts that into the measures that you need to make your mind up on decisions with the ferment. So it's collecting a lot of data all of the time, but we don't want to just, data dump you. We want to give it into something that's super useful. So for example, like the bricks measure is a density measurement converted to bricks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more questions before we finish up here? Just waiting to see if anyone's got any messages. Not to me. No, it looks good. Okay, well, hey, look, thank you so much for sharing all of that information today, Abbe, and thank you everybody else for watching. Thank you all for your questions. It's been really fascinating to hear more about Winely, what you're up to, and yeah, I'd love to see more of your products in Central Otago, because I'd love to see the results and have a play around with the dashboard sometime. That'd be fascinating from a winemaker's perspective.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for that. We'll say goodbye to all of our guests. Thank you for coming along today, and thank you all for making good wine. Bye, everyone.